The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests as individuals, and do not necessarily reflect those of advertisers or sponsors. This show is intended as entertainment and commentary only. The producers strive for verisimilitude, but nothing said on this podcast should be taken as fact by the listener or viewer without performing due diligence. While generally considered safe for work by way of content, some language may be considered offensive by more sensitive viewers or listeners.
That existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at.
We'll do the formal start in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so Ty, I told Andy back in like February, my significant other, who's had way more therapy than me, it's making it difficult to keep up with her when we argue. Her dad had been deeply involved in the Mankind Project stuff.
Which we'll get to today. That's a topic I want to talk about.
And it's really interesting. It's a lot of like shadow work stuff, and they use psychodrama to sort of elicit a lot of these memories. I found it to be really helpful, actually. So that was sort of a trigger for some of the stuff. But mostly it was like uncovering little... I've been, deeply involved in Jungian psychology and various forms of esoteric traditions for some time. So this was one of my first initiatory experiences, but it was very handy at outlining, giving me a kind of a clear outline on my shadow stuff. And that kind of a clean articulation, really, it's amazing how that helps.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
No, we do a bunch of shadow work in Zen as well. It's just, it's branded differently.
Exactly right. It's like, and I think Andy was joking with me when I told him about this. He said, "Yeah, I did all that same stuff when it was real."
I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
No, actually, but you could say that to me because I knew what you meant.
I appreciate that. That's why we've been friends for almost 40 years.
I think that's probably right.
You know what? 3, 2, 1. How you doing, everybody? Hey, remember us? Well, this is Keep Your Hat On. I am Andy. That is Dr. Mark. That is Ty. And you will notice, and then there were 3. Aside from the fact that it was a landmark Genesis album for me, we are missing a Chris. Our Chris has decided to sprout wings and fly in his own direction.
And now, I write this battle's final chapter with the blood of my enemies! It's the little button on the sleeve.
Which legitimately is what he's doing. Chris is going to be doing a project of his own and wants to devote time to that. And, of course, everybody here, we all absolutely and utterly support him in doing so as well. But we're going to start off. It's been nearly a year since we have all gathered. And, I'm going to just do one little tiny more mea culpa. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about why this happened, and one of the things that I'm really, and we'll talk more about this in the future, okay? But I'm sure you guys, and I'm sure most of you listeners out there who may or may not still be there. There's a term that was coined a number of years ago, and it's called enshittification. And I, along with my, as everybody that has followed the show knows, my realization that I'm on the autism spectrum, combined with, have you looked at YouTube lately? Have you noticed that all the thumbnails look exactly the same? Have you noticed that, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting something, fix the tab slowing your browser, fix this tab. There, I fixed it. Shut up, computer. Goddamn AIs. Yeah, right. Did you turn it off and on again? The algorithm in only the time that we've been away, the algorithm has like, what, seizure is it? It's really, I get these suggestions and offerings, stuff that never in a million years would I be interested in it. And then, have you noticed that all the thumbnails now, they look almost exactly the same? It's people doing.
Yeah. Do you know why?
Oh, I know why. The principles behind that have been around for a long time.
Right.
Thumbnail design is actually like, there are certain colleges that teach thumbnail design and graphic design class now because it's such an important commercial thing.
This got away from me completely. Yeah, obviously, right?
It's all the same. It's exaggerated facial expressions, a lot of pointing, block letters, right? And I mean, I've been doing our thumbnails since show 2. And I have my own style. I admit that my style, my graphic design style for our thumbnails is cluttered, but that's on purpose because I wanted to make sure that we didn't actually look like everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, is there a reason why everybody's doing that right now? I mean, other than if popular?
Because it works.
Okay.
The only reason why anything happens once on YouTube and then twice on YouTube and then 10 times on YouTube is because it gets clicks and it gets views.
And that's working with the algorithm.
It is to one degree or another. Ty, get your mic a little further close to you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dad.
Even when he's in the studio with you, you have to turn him up.
Notice that, did you? We're all out of shape. Also, you got a volume input on the back of your mic just to make sure.
Oh, I don't have one of those, I don't think.
No. Okay, anyways.
What's this button do?
That's go ahead. It's mute. But we're also seeing this real significant churn in YouTube. If you think about the stuff that YouTube has been putting in front of you lately,
oh my gosh,
it's I mean, aside from disaster porn, which is something that YouTube has, made its dime on.
Always loved those Russian dash cam videos.
Oh, right? Okay, seriously, there's some gold in them thar hills. And there's so many other good things like Low Bridge. Have you watched the Low Bridge channel?
Ooh. I don't have to now. I already know what it's going to be.
Exactly. It's 11 foot. Webcam in a building across the street and just repeated buses, semis.
Yeah,
it's nothing but an endless font of smashing.
The thing that I have noticed is like this story about Jimmy Page and back in the Led Zeppelin days and how his aunt was at every show for like 2 years.
And that's another thing that's been happening.
It's completely false.
All these, it's kind of rage bait, but it's especially aimed toward, well, I can't say, Mark, you probably have a different experience.
Oh, no. I've been getting boomer stuff lately.
Okay, see, because that's what I was going to say. I was going to say that really our stuff is super Gen X specific, like stories about bands and the truth behind the albums. And it's all super formulaic. It's all very the same. And it's exclusively, like you were asking, Ty, its sameness is exclusively because it works. One channel has made a success out of that. Everybody else piles in, but now it's all complicated and multiplied by AI, because you can literally take an AI agent, point it at a channel, and say, I want to do this channel. I want to look like their thumbnails. I want to edit like their video editing. I want their scripts written. And there's literally also channel piracy on the high seas, where you tell an AI agent, I want this, but just instruct it to take the material wholesale, just cob the video, transcribe the script, reword it slightly, use a fixed different voice, and and they're doing that for big channels. I follow the channel Tested, which is a big channel on making and stuff. And we discovered the other day that there are like 3 robot versions of that channel that were just literally stolen whole cloth. But the whole enshittification thing about this, I'm starting to see this, and I mean, this is no surprise. I'm starting to see this everywhere in every aspect of life. It's how close to the midline can we get it to where it offends no one, it challenges no one, it pleases people just enough, and brings them back for more.
We did a program about the death of the internet. Remember that? And I think that's what we got now. We have one of my longtime online friends from England said that this is now the zombie apocalypse, because all of the AIs are talking to each other, and people are interacting with them as if they're real. And there you go. So
I'm not saying that that's wrong. I think that's an interesting premise, that the zombie apocalypse happened. We just didn't know it because it was virtual zombies, not real ones, not physical zombies. But anyways, that's an interesting thing. We'll cover more of that, because there's a lot of stuff to pick through. And, we've done, 7, 8 different shows on artificial intelligence. We got on that train early. You can literally look at our history. Like 2 years ago, we were talking about artificial intelligence. Well, I got a report from the field here in that I still, and look, I retired from doing professional voiceover work on the regular. I still do it. I have a couple different content creators that I still work for. They want my voice. I help build their channel, and it's easy. It's just the easy gig for me. But I'm still plugged into the industry, or at least parts of it. And I've been hearing from people way bigger than me. I was successful. I was by no means a huge success. I paid my bills, and it was great. I got people in my world that were pulling down regular 6 figures for 15, 20 years doing this. And they aren't anymore. And so my admonition through the past, that really home voice work was one of the canaries in the coal mine. Boy, did that become true, because
it was.
There's no work anymore for people who really just want to start out. Back in the day, you used to be able to jump in and some of my first gigs were doing narration, essentially the early version of books on tape, or the late version of books on tape, I'm sorry, where it was something that it was a publication that didn't have an actual audiobook version done by the publisher, the author, but it was a person with limited sight or was legally blind who either needed or wanted this, and they would literally buy you the book, send you the book, and you'd record it for them so that they could hear it. And of course, later, a lot of that was, taken offline by way of OCR, optical character recognition, and, phones where you can literally point it at the page and it'll read it to you. But those jobs were intrinsic in getting people started in voiceover. and they don't exist anymore. They literally don't exist. And that it happened again. I got one of my people who just literally retired from voiceover work and started doing vibe coding in order to keep making money.
Well, that's going to go pretty quick too.
How do you think? Why so?
Because the AI can code just as well.
Oh, well, that's what I had said. I used a term called vibe coding. Vibe coding. Vibe, man.
I meant VI. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Different language entirely. And I vibe code. I got Ty can see it in my studio here. I got a program up on my screen that shows me all my select security cameras. And it's a much better app than any app that's currently available. I developed it in about 3 hours with an AI platform. And to be fair, I have done some work in writing my own material because everybody knows that I've been struggling with this. How do I edit all this? How do I, how do I juggle 9 things with one hand? And eventually we'll probably wind up having more artificial intelligence involved in our production, because that's like the good edge of the sword. It allows people like me, independent producers or something, to do larger amounts of work or higher quality work without having a team of people. But we'll get there. Anyways, so Mark, why don't you jump in, catch us up a little bit with, hold on a second. Hold on. Ty, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing peachy.
So much has happened since we were away. It's kind of hard
Ty,
to.
why do you have hair now? What's that about?
Oh, lazy. Yeah,
I understand.
Lazy.
That.
And mine is just because 'tis the season, man. There's nothing worse than being out in the yard, banging around, running a chipper shredder with hair.
I don't see. I kind of like that's one of the reasons why I kind of kept it going, is because it catches that sweat and it doesn't just roll off my head and into my eyes.
I would rather it roll off my head and into my hat brow. We find the weirdest shit. That's hello, keep your hat on. So anyways, Mark, what's been going on with you in the interleaving number of months? Because one of the things that I want to talk about is one of the things that you've been doing.
Oh, yeah. So the weird thing was something I never thought I would do, which was join a club.
What? Join a cult?
Join a cult.
There's meat on that bone, too. Careful.
I don't think they are.
Well, that's why I want to talk about it.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, I know.
Who says we started a cult?
Hey, they're a cult and I want to join.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to join a cult that would have people like me as a member.
But
yeah, so back in February or so I'm involved. So I live with this woman now who has had a lot more therapy than me. And so it's really hard to keep up with her.
Before or after her relationship started with you?
Way before me, yeah. So this is like, I think
she needs different therapy now.
I'm the one. I initially thought this would be really a good thing because she'd be ahead of me, and she still is. And that was it. So it means when we argue about anything, I'm completely unarmed. And her father had been deeply involved in the beginnings of this thing called the Mankind Project, which you guys may have heard. I know Andy's heard about that.
Yeah.
And he was sort of in on the ground floor of this. And so she had been sort of recommending this. And just to sort of put this in my own context, though, I was really resistant because I've spent a lot of time in meditation and looking at myself, and I didn't need a men's support group, and thank you very much. But and they kickstart a lot of their support projects with something called the Weekend, which is an initiatory weekend, which walks through actually all of the traditional, boringly familiar to those of you who've done any of that sort of thing. You guys said, Zen, you know what it's like to sort of go through your first few sessions where your brain rots and your feet fall asleep and all the rest of this. But so they have this weekend, and so Alexandra kept saying, well, you should do one of these weekends. And I was like, no. And then she found that one of these weekends was scheduled for my birthday in Honolulu, where I was born. And it was like, it was a kind of a follow the yellow brick road moment. This is my whole life has been pretty much when I find these kinds of breadcrumbs of synchronicity. Do you know?
Yeah, this weekend isn't a virtual. I mean, the weekend that you're talking about, this initiated.
It's in real
weekend.
life. It's in real life. Yeah.
So you got to go to where they are.
Wherever it happens to be.
They're all over the place.
Oh, everywhere in the world. Actually.
Yeah, literally. When you look into it, it's a much larger organization than I thought it was.
Okay.
Oh, huge, by the way. And so anyway, but so this was like, oh, hell. Okay. It's like with that kind of weird, breadcrumbs showing up, it was like, okay. Well, so I call them and I get ready to go. And I end up, this was like in November. And so I called the local branch guys to find out about this and get connected with it and find out what I needed to do and how do I get there and where is it and all this jazz. And at the last minute, they canceled the one in Hawaii. And I had already met some of the groups meeting here in Milwaukee. And I really like the guys. They're not nuts. They're most of them are really professional people. And there's a number of people in there who really need. So anyway,
I just want to say that
I'm
I'm
with the locals,
checking off the boxes for
cult membership. Oh yeah,
including on what you're saying.
The induction process sounds just like the same. So, so I hooked up with the local guys, and then finally at the end of February, I went and did my weekend over in Michigan. At a Boy Scout camp in Michigan. And it follows all of the sort of typical protocols you'd get and that you'd have in any initiatory process. And most of it's built around. So it was really interesting. It's been interesting talking to older guys who are like closer to my age, which is like 70 now. And it's like we've all had pretty good lives. We're all pretty highly functional people. And a lot of us have had a lot of practice with looking at the dark underside of our own personal lives. And so it's very different for older folks. So the whole time I was there, I studied these things professionally for my entire career. And so I was checking off the boxes of, oh, that's a good way to do that. And, the initial, bringing people in, taking all their stuff away from them, and making them feel uncomfortable and sort of positing a line between the outside and the inside of this process that's going to take place.
Right.
And I was checking boxes. It was like, oh, that's a good way to do that one, and this is a good way to do that one, and so on. My limbic system, however, at the same time was actually experiencing the initiatory process, which I'm also familiar with, and I was able to check that against my other ones. And they did it really well. It wasn't casual. It was thought out pretty carefully. And the baseline here for those of you out there who have done any of this stuff is really what in a lot of areas gets called shadow work. It's a way of sort of exposing you to sort of the stories that we've told ourselves that actually helped get us through difficult times when we were little, and which we've now repressed, but we keep doing anyway. Mm-hmm. I guess that's a good way to talk about it.
Yeah.
And just to get an exposure. And so it's like, this wasn't anything I wasn't already familiar with. But for me, the process actually gave me some clear lines of articulation around that early stuff. I have a couple of hilarious, they're funnier now, childhood encounters with authority.
Yeah.
Which conditioned later on. So anyway, that was sort of the biggest deal that's happened. The other thing is just sort of getting used to being retired. And
there's that.
I was really fortunate, and I'm outing myself here, but I was sort of fortunate in my life not to have identified with my job. And I have friends and colleagues in the academy who are deeply identified with their titles and, who they think they were in the context of that. And of course, it's really hard to get there. That's an initiatory process too. And so I was fortunate not to have that. So I was saying before, Ty, is like, what's it been like? Is the sort of my social scaffolding has been falling away.
Well, yeah, I had to remind you when we were trying to set up time to do this that you could actually do it on Monday. Because you're like, oh, that's right. I don't.
I don't have class to get ready. I will tell you the other thing, too. I may have said this before in here that one of my friends from the Joseph Campbell Foundations, this Mike Lambert, who was a high school teacher a few years ahead of me, and I asked him what it was like. And I can tell you, he got this exactly right. It's like you have all of these background processes that are constantly running, and suddenly they start shutting down. And this is like, I was always thinking about what's the syllabus going to look like this coming semester? What's the syllabus going to look like next year? Do I have curriculum development needs that have to go through? What are my budgetary processes involved for departmental stuff? And so all this background stuff constantly. Well, it's like getting quiet again. And
suddenly your CPU goes, wait a minute.
I have
bandwidth.
I have bandwidth. And so I've been writing kind of like a fool. I've been saying this, like, I think, Ty, one of the things that's been is like, I felt like I've been living backwards since I retired. So it's like, I went back before working life to being in graduate school again. And my clock clocked around to my graduate school schedule, which meant that I got up about 8, read the paper, had coffee, caught up on the Atlantic, the New Yorker, Harper's, and the Economist. How's that for like a stereotype?
That's 2 of my 4.
and Scientific American. I forgot them. And it's like, come on. And so now I'm sort of back, I think, into high school now, almost. And
you're like doing the Jonathan Winters on Mork and Mindy thing where you're aging backwards.
Our baby is a full-grown man. Things like this just don't happen in the Midwest.
I want to say Merlin, really, from Sword in the Stone.
There. You see, I'm an ugly, horrible, grouchy old man.
I just thought of the word regression.
No. Regression means losing place.
Yeah, I get to keep all of the.
I would say that he's lost in place.
But you're okay, Andrew. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. And so now, what was your?
First off, here I'll back you in that. I can see what you're saying about your identity not being completely intertwined with your title. Because I know you, I know a couple other people for whom their PhDs and their positions, I've always thought of you as a philosopher first. And philosophers, strictly speaking, don't necessarily have labels or letters.
I was a very good philosopher and a very bad philosophy student.
Don't know where that comes from.
I was not a successful, technically from the point of view of the academy, I was not a brilliantly successful professor. I was really good with students, but I was not good with the economies.
Well, and that's just it. The academy does not care about what your students think.
Oh, no. Irrelevant.
That's completely absolutely irrelevant.
I was also spared. I can say this to the Zen guys here, which, I've always felt that I was taken care of. Yeah, wherever. I always felt like it was kind of the first few years working out in West Bend, Andy, where we met, was really just like a real blow to my ego. But after a couple of years, I suddenly realized it was like this was a terrific gift because I had no administrative bullshit. I was completely allowed to do whatever I wanted to do and take responsibility for that and have fun and enjoy the processes, right? Which, it's like I used to joke with my colleagues who were at bigger places that I was 10 years younger than them by the time we got done. But this was like a gift. So I never formed the sort of attachments to the position or to the money or to the prestige, since there was none of that available.
Yeah, it was. You're not going to go out and just find it sitting there waiting for you. All the glory of your position. No, it wasn't that.
Yeah. Are you working at Fordham or Yale? It's like, nope.
No, but I'm going to be having a patty melt over at Sherry's because I can afford that on my salary. So listen, let's talk a little bit more about the the Mankind Project.
Oh, sure,
and
I'm sorry.
In the intervening time, I did a couple other pieces to camera that didn't really, I didn't put them up. And part of the reason why is because I didn't feel confident in my own position on it. And I don't like to just sit there and spew stuff that I haven't figured my own opinion out on.
Everybody else is.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And, hello, in shitification. But one of the pieces that I did do, and something that I've been working with this for a surprisingly long time. I actually, and I'll drop names for you because it actually matters. Mark Pachovnik, Ed, and Patrick all came over to my apartment a number of years ago, 2014. 12, excuse me. Because I wanted to start a men's Zen group. Because I felt that there were things to explore and issues pertaining to, I'm going to kill you if you keep on wrinkling that shit.
I didn't even mean to.
Set it down, ADHD boy. There, that's it. Good, nice, quiet. All right, both of you. I got mutes and I know how to use them. But I felt for a long time that there has not been a real underpinning of male-centered practice and growth. And that goes back to, I moved out here in December of 1999. And that was really, if we all think about it, that was when stuff really started to pop off. Shortly after that, we wound up having the World Trade protests up in Seattle and the riot in Seattle from there. Yeah. And then we had, the rise of the Me Too movement and men showing up wearing pussy hats, doing the march with women, and the exploration of how does a man interface and be an ally and be supportive to women, to people of color, to everything that a white heterosexual cisgendered man is. How can you work with that when, effectively speaking, most of those groups don't really want you there right now? And really the thing that was most significant to me was, when Bernie Sanders started really becoming visible, and, we had Orange Tyrant with 4,000 people in a disused stadium somewhere, and Bernie Sanders pulling in 38,000 people into the Tacoma Dome to listen to him talk. And, the real surge of that, and I'm speaking specifically of Bernie and what he brought up in people. Because if you look back 2015, 2014, those rallies, they were really 50-50. Lots and lots of women, lots and lots of 30-something, 40-something men. And, of course, we know how that election went. And really, where I started to have a real problem is that these guys still were carrying forward that message. And the only thing that the public did was give them an epithet, give them a slang name, and that is the Bernie bro.
Oh, that message.
That message. And
yes, they did, by the way, which is even more appalling, right?
And so where did those guys go? They were told that they really weren't welcome in supporting women at women's marches. And you know what? In some ways, I understand that. And as a man, as a masculine presence, I understand that, okay, if you don't want me here, I'll try to find a way to support this cause, because I understand that part of what you're struggling against is the feeling of being with men. And I get that. And then we've got, well, okay, but now all these guys who were energized, who were positive, who wanted to work for change, The same guys who started out at the Occupy Wall Street movement were Bernie guys, and now they're just called Bernie bros. And so they really start feeling like, well, okay, now I can't say, but I'm not one of those guys, because that language, I've now been told, you can't say not all men. So I can't stand up for myself that way. And you don't want me here, and you don't want me. Well, you know what? You know where they went? They went to Joe Rogan, and they went to MAGA.
But see, this tells you something about them and what they were hungry for. That's what I would say. I don't know, Ty, do you see these guys in practice and stuff at all? Do you run into that? I mean, is this a sort of a question that hits you in like your daily stuff?
You know, if I try to wear blinders, right? Because if I know this individual is toxic in his masculinity or a mega supporter, do I really want to know that? Because that is going to make it really tough for me to do whatever business I'm doing with them.
You mean by way of your own...
Yes.
Yeah, your own feelings about their position. And
and, well, my feelings about the end result. And how they continue to be part of the problem and have yet to see that they need to be part of the solution.
Yeah. I think, you know...
But as I'm thinking about this men's group thing, we sit and we talk about chauvinism and we talk about all these things that are toxic, but it occurred to me that we have never really talked about how do we find a way out of that.
Yeah.
And when we do ask that question, people just kind of throw up their shoulders and say, I don't know.
And you know, again, I want to say for any women out there who are viewing, listening, whatever, you know, you're listening to three guys, and I'm not going to like try to make us into paragons of soft masculinity, whatever that means.
Now get your patchouli stink out of my store. Move it, lard ass.
But we all have histories where we really actually actively try to understand other points of view, be it political or gender affiliation or whatever. But you can't be told over and over and over again, no, not like that, and then not be given a pointer or a direction to an example. And what's interesting to me is, aside from like fucking Mr. Rogers, we don't get examples. We get told what not to be and what not to do. We don't get, well, what do we do?
So all of this stuff, the Mankind Project stuff, gets started with Robert Bly writing Iron John, right? I don't know if you even remember this. This is back in the 80s.
It was a good read, but...
By the way, you should go look at the original fairy tale that he stole that from, by the way, which is really fascinating on its own. It's mythologically sound stuff. And their original, this is him and a guy named Bill Kaut, their original idea was they were looking at all of these women groups that were getting together. This is in the 70s and into the early 80s for support and the bullshit that women were having to put up with, which they discovered they didn't have to anymore. It's like, I feel pretty strongly about this because my own mom was sort of part of this initial wave of women stepping out of their roles into, to an authenticity. I want to say it that way. I was real proud of my mom, and her mom was a trigger for that for her. So Couts and them were watching all this happen with the women's groups, and they thought, Bly thought, men need this too, because how are they supposed to navigate this transition with nobody to tell them what to do? And of course, what happened instead was there's this idea that, and so the fun part for me, by the way, I'm going to just bracket this and I'll move on, was like, I've been living in this privileged atmosphere for most of my life, where I didn't have to worry too much about this because we were all academics and we'd all, done a lot of work with feminists and we understood the shit that women were up against, even if we were still men. And so I didn't understand until here this year that whole thing about men don't know what to do now because their roles have been taken away from them because look at the Bernie Bros, look at the MAGA supporters who believe that women achieving equality in our culture, let's just say in terms of justice, let's just use that instead of something else, short sheets them. Right, they have the sense that if women are given these things, or African Americans or
they're going to be diminished.
Asian, they're going to be diminished, and it's like, I swear to God, I never believed that was really true, but I do now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how many things in the last 10 years, Mark, have we suddenly gone, oh shit, that's actually true?
It's like that actually is true.
That's a thing that happens,
and part of it is, I think, is in my own case, it's like I grew up in a matriarchy. With breathtakingly tough women. I went through a graduate program with frighteningly intelligent women who any moment I strayed outside the lines is like, see what you're doing here? It's like, oh my God. So I've been kind of fortunate in that way. This doesn't mean I'm done or anything, but I was really lucky this way. But it put blinders on me about what other men were going through. And I think one of the strengths here, there's a bunch of layers into this. One of them is, what do you do about... So I was going to go to lordship and bondage here and sort of the Marxist analysis of gender.
Oh, I was going to do a girl named Maria.
Which I don't know what that is.
What do you do about a girl named Maria?
How do you solve a problem like Maria? That one I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where I was going with it.
How do you catch a wave upon the sand, Andrew? But here's the deal. It's like when you have an oppressed class, so this could be African Americans in our case, certainly women, an oppressed class in society, Hegel and Marx spun out this whole set of processes by which consciousness is raised and they overthrow the oppressor and all the rest of this. But they never talk about what to do if you happen to be in the oppressor class.
Yeah.
Right? And this happens.
If you accidentally find yourself in the oppressor class.
Not my fault. Right?
Yep.
And this is the same thing we see with all of these trailer park guys who are going, you're privileged. It's like, I don't fucking feel privileged. I make minimum wage and I live in a trailer. And I'm seeing these people, in the cities who get all this free stuff. It's like, well, not entirely true. But that's why they feel shitty like this. This is the same thing. It's like, the more aggressive, I always think, I've told Andy this story. My first experience in graduate school was I found 215 Huron Street, which was the department, and in Toronto, as my first day. And I walked up to the door, and there's this woman coming up. And so I had been living in Alabama. So I held the door open.
No culture shock at all, by the way.
So I opened the door for her, and she stopped, and she punched me in the shoulder as hard as she could. She goes, "Fucking pig," and walked in. Well, I got to know her later, Karen Wenland. And Karen was a radical lesbian, vegetarian feminist. And of course, the scariest part of that was the vegetarianism. But we got to be good friends later. But it was like, that's not, see, if we think about this from outside, if you're a woman who's trying to regain some sort of sense of power socially and in terms of social justice, for her to say no to these social gestures, which are leftover echoes of patriarchy, is not unreasonable.
Absolutely correct.
Now, it's a pain in the ass if it's your shoulder. It's a pain in your shoulder.
Very true to that.
But it's like, from her point of view, we have to understand this. And it's like, okay, so this is something we're still working through, right? And one of the things I found, so what do men do about this? And the answer is, part of it is they have to be authentically themselves too. And I will say that being an asshole is not the same as being an authentic person.
No.
And I think we can almost boil it down to simple stuff like that. And the fact that men haven't been taught to be authentically who they are is the problem, because they've been taught to be who they're supposed to be in the context of their social roles. And let me share this with you too, because this is the one thing that came out of my weekend with all these young guys. It's like there were a couple of others, like 70-year-olds in the crowd, and we had a good time. But we watched these 20-year-olds who went through this. And this was way serious for them. It was for us. It was like backfilling. It was like, oh,
Sure.
I see. That makes sense. But for these 20-year-olds, boy, and this one kid, I get goosebumps thinking about this. Wonderful kid from Chicago named Bill, and he said, I just want to be who I really am all the time. And it was like,
I'm putting an asterisk here because that's a fascinating thing that you just said.
And my internal professor was going, this kid's going to be okay.
Right.
But, part of the problem is then the question then is, how do we do that? How do we help these men become authentically who they are? Which means, you shouldn't be threatened by the fact that like the black guys down the block get to vote too, or the Mexicans down the block that are here, that have become citizens, or heaven forbid women be allowed to vote. It's like, why is that even an issue for you? And the answer, of course, is because they've been taught that that's an issue for them. And, Bly and the Mankind Project's take on this was, we've forgotten about initiatory processes for men.
That's another thing that I was going to come at, was the anthropological side of that, because we've been taught that. So we don't have any ritualization of the transition from boy to man anymore. We don't have the ritual systems in place to let someone feel like they're progressing into society and culture.
Yep. Yeah, and my inner Marxist is still going to say that those processes were co-opted by economic ones.
Well, and that's where I go with it as well. And not only that, part of it also goes back to, and this isn't really Joseph Campbell stuff, but one of the things that I've always felt is that each culture has their own set of rituals, but very early on, the ritual also gets co-opted in the name of power in the community.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And that's something that nobody wants to talk about. These rituals that we have, or even the good old ones back when we were men, those are all rituals that really kind of set you up for, and you must be strong because you will be in power. You must be keeping the culture moving forward.
There is this really deeper sense, too, in which, and this is a conflict that I'm still trying to figure out, because then the question is, like, what do we do about this? And, of course, this was a question that Buddha had to pose to himself, too, right? Mm-hmm. At his moment of enlightenment is like, can I actually show anybody how to do this? That's really the important question. And I was actually good at getting students to learn how to think clearly. I was really good at it.
You were.
But it took 15 weeks writing 1,000 words a week and reading Plato's Republic. That's what it took. And it only worked on about 8% of them.
Damn. That's not a very good batting average,
I don't know
boss.
if I ever told you this. Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you this. But, after my first year or two teaching, I called my mentor up, and I was just frustrated. I said, I don't think I'm getting through to anybody. And he laughed, and he said, nobody told you this, but you're only ever going to get about 6 a year.
Well, and the other part of that is you were mistaken in thinking that your job was to get through to people. I don't think that's accurate.
I was just a hollow tube to bring down fire from heaven. That's always been my job.
Yeah, you were just a conduit.
That's still my job. It's still my job to this day.
Well, and it's interesting, one of the things, that asterisk that I was talking about, this idea, what did that kid say? Is I want
to be who I really am all the time.
I want to be who I really am all the time. So
isn't that brilliant?
Again, my exploration into this new world of autism spectrum disorder, and I hate the D part. Really? I hate it. I don't find it a disorder. My exploration of the autism spectrum, we have in both the autism world and in the ADHD world, we have this concept that we refer to as masking. And masking, just the real short distillation is, masking is acting like everybody else so you don't stick out.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
But especially in the autistic community, when you decide to unmask, there's good, smart ways to do it, and then there's a way most people do it, which is you set down that mask and you start actually being your fully authentic autistic self, and everything goes to shit because you have no sense of graduation. You have no ability to, you just finally have set down arguably the biggest burden of your life. And you are finally able to stand up straight, and you just fire that shit off indiscriminately and as loud a volume as possible. And my dear partner, Heather, will attest to the fact that sometimes it doesn't go well. But it's that really seems to hold hands for me with what that young man said. Because really the idea, and I mean, now we do dive into Campbell. Okay. So, it's all a mask. Our masculinity is a mask. Our party affiliation for politics, that's a mask. It's all a mask. And once you finally set down that mask, it's like carrying a burden for so long that when you finally stand up, if you've set it down, you literally feel your spine straighten and you start feeling, pops going up your back because you're finally able to stand up straight. That relief, that catharsis, and I love the word catharsis. It's one of my favorite words. And kids, look it up out there because that's such a loaded word. It's got so much meat there. But the relief of not having to pretend anymore. But then once you're out there, you suddenly have to ask yourself, oh shit, this is who I really am. Am I okay with this? There's a lot of stuff going on here that I'm trotting out now that kind of feels good, but people look at me like, why did you do that? And so there's a thing that happens in the autism community where you set down your mask, you autism a little too hard and a little too freely, and then you decide effectively to go back and put your mask back on. The problem with that is the change once you set your mask down to your person is irrevocable. So the mask no longer fits. And it makes a mess. And I'm kind of wondering how, and I'll be interested to find out as I explore, the Mankind Project myself. I've heard a number of things about the organization, and I've heard about it for years. I think I first heard about it back when I was talking with our Zen compatriots about doing a masculine-centered class about the Mankind Project. And I've heard good things and cult things. I think
it would be very easy. Go ahead.
That's just it. The cult thing to me is it's too easy. Anytime there's a group of people who have established rituals of initiation, people who don't understand it go cult.
I will tell you that I'm going to keep hanging out with these guys for a while yet. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, because I'm as cynical as they come when it comes to this kind of stuff. Even while I was neck deep in the sort of the psychodrama catharsis that they set me up for on the mat, which was really, even while I was going through it, my philosopher's brain, my higher brain functions were still intact and they were still operating. And I was thinking at every moment how professional and rigorous and coherent they were. So there was nothing casual about this. These are guys, the people who actually run these weekends you're not just allowed to go do this. Most of them are professional therapists and stuff who've had like years of practice.
Yeah, there's a disproportionate amount of people involved in the upper ranks of the Mankind Project that are professional brain people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was
neuroscientists.
It was unbelievably clear to me while I was going through it that these guys were actually on their feet bringing all these different. There were 20 of us in this particular group, and everybody got 20 minutes of this stuff called On the Carpet. And the other reason this isn't a cult maybe is that all of this stuff is public knowledge. There's no secrets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it isn't. There's nothing secret about this. You could look at this and just go, "Oh, it's the use of psychodrama and shadow work, which is pretty common in a lot of therapeutic circles." It's all it was. And the guys who were running these things, and this shit this could be really dangerous for some people.
Oh yeah, you do this. You do this in the wrong environment or with the wrong people, and it can get really bad.
There was a series of introductory. I want to say screenings. So nobody just gets to sign up for this and go. You get interviewed a couple of times before they let you all the way through. And it was like, I mean, this was sort of not surprising to have my ego like shredded and like, that this was like something I've done on my own in my own meditative practices. So, but watching these guys do these other techniques to get me there was like, that was cool and professional and rigorous. That's one of the dimensions to this. The other thing is that and I've been very brutal with the local groups. There are these groups that meet afterwards to sort of integrate the practices over time, and some people need more help than others. One of the things I was going to say to you was that I had not understood before, because of my own, I'm living on the mountaintop, such as, West Bend was an ivory tower made out of cinder blocks.
I find that funny. So
it is funny. It's maybe a cheese tower. Maybe that's what it was. But I had no idea how desperately some men need this kind of support. And it's deadly serious business. And these are guys, the people I'm around now, a lot of them are real professionals and, completely functional folks who just need a little bit of support. And this is another one of the keys here is this is absolutely and explicitly not therapy. That's left for actual professionals.
Yeah, and they're very clear about that in all their material.
Yeah.
This is about support. It's not therapy. It is about peer support.
Yeah, and so I'll give you one example. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I was at one of these meetings, and one of the new guys who'd just gone through his weekend said, "Who wants to do something tonight?" And this guy says, "Well, I'd like to talk about how do I get to live a fully authentic life?" And one of the old guys goes, "See, this is such a great question. But we have about 2 hours. Is there just a scoop of this? Could we get a scoop for you tonight? Is there a thing that we could do that would be like a scoop of that tonight?" And it was like this kind of clarity of purpose is also really, like, to me, smart in terms of helping people get through. And it's like, I don't really need any support. But I have to tell you, I have maybe some reverse transference or something going on, because watching these other fellas go through this and look at how they have to live their lives and how brave people are with the shit that they have to put up with in their own lives, to me is just shocking. And it's like I feel privileged even to be present to help them, feel better about it. So maybe that's the culty part of this, right?
Well,
no, it just sounds. I mean, with some differences, This is AA. This is a 12-step.
Well, and same could be said for, if you think about it, with a few differences, this is Zen. This is practice. This is sitting there and facing yourself, and at times going, well, wait a minute, what the hell is this self thing? And that's, I think, something where the term that you used that I find really important, and that when you're talking about 12-step or recovery or Buddhism or this, it's the idea of integration. How do I take the things that I have learned and practiced with and actually integrate them into the greater, wider world? Because we can all sit there in a small room full of people who are there already trying to be open to you and feel good about yourself and feel, I feel stronger in my sobriety, or I feel like I'm being more compassionate and equanimous and all this. It's easy to be a paragon when you're in a small room with a bunch of friends.
The other thing that ties this back into this about this, let's talk about that for a sec, the integrative part. And I don't want to do just a commercial for these guys, but I've had a good experience. We'll come back
with a critical eye as your progression goes on.
But so the real key to any proper approach to integration, this is certainly true in more coherently established religious practices like Buddhism. Certainly big chunks of Hinduism can do this. I'm not so sure about the Christians. So, and maybe in Islam, I think maybe in Islam in certain parts, is the clarity and the coherence of the processes that are set out in order to help this along. Because what never happens at any of these groups that I've gotten together with, nobody just sits around and gets shit out of their system. There's a set of well-defined processes for any particular thing that's bugging you that day to keep it organized and on track and confined to a very specific thing one thing at a time. So it's not just some kvetching session. It's not one of these deep encounter groups.
No, they've really kind of systematized their approach to you participating and bringing in your whatever you want to deal with.
And what it was attractive to me because of the basis of my own background work in the esoteric traditions was the specificity and the concreteness of the processes. So it wasn't just this airy-fairy, we talk about fluffy bunny pagans. It was none of that. This is very specific, well thought out psychological processes from therapeutic methods. And no sitting around and whining.
And that's just it. If you think about it in the context of Zen, we've got all that built in as well.
But even AA, right? Even AA and NA, it's like, don't tell me what a shitty life you're having. What specifically tonight is going on?
How are you doing today?
Well, and you can take this into larger spirituality because, Mark, you'd mentioned Islam. There are a number of practices in Islam that really are systematized, and I will stand up not the Jesuits so much, but the Carmelites.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, and Carmelite tradition. There are specific steps to dealing with the sacrament of confession that. They'll start you out as a little kid saying, go in and, say what you want to say. But then as you go forward and either you wind up doing CCD, which is Catholic indoctrination, or you wind up being confirmed and do a greater study, they systematize the approach to that sacrament or to that activity so that it tends to help focus you and keep the greater overall focus tight, because it's too easy, like you say, to just sit there and emotionally vomit and then what do you guys think? It's like, wow, it's not particularly helpful. So I'm interested in knowing more about that in the future. Because I think you'll probably be able to say more as time goes on.
Yeah, I think the important part about what we're talking about here, and this shows up in Islam or in certainly in the Jesuits as you proceed through the process to become a Jezi, for instance, it's the practice, right? There are concrete and specific practices that have been worked through that are in place to help you move along to where you need to be, right? AA does this. A lot of these other groups do this. And it's the coherence and concreteness of those processes, I think, that really, that's what makes the difference between just sitting around and kvetching.
Well, and that's also, why they so often say, trust the process, not the plan. Because the plan was to become a whole human being.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've been working on that for 58 years.
You don't get done.
No, it might not. There's one other aspect of this that I'm really interested in, and I'm going to have to save it for a future show because I don't want to come off being flippant, but I will say this, and that is, keep your ear to, and obviously, you're not breaking the circle. Don't tell tales out of school. But it will be very interesting to me to hear from you about people's experiences coming in and whether or not they wound up getting there after a nice big fat mushroom trip.
Oh, that's such a good question. I want to say, all initiatory processes should be a really good mushroom trip.
Well, I'll put it this way.
That was sort of my experience.
All good initiative processes are whether you like it or not, because that's what initiation means. You have to leave something at the door, whether or not you set it down or whether or not it's ripped off of you. It really doesn't matter, because you're not going to be able to see with all that shit over your eyes. Gosh. Look at us. We did a whole show. Yeah, we are back, baby. Do us a favor, like, click, subscribe, all that bullshit for, I don't know. We probably got one dude in India. We might have lost the Indian contingent. But listen, to the people who have continued to support us, and there have been a couple, thank you so much. We are back. We're not going to try to commit to we're going to do this every single. We're going to try. I'm still working on it, but I've made enough room in my life now that I think I'm back on the horse, and by that I don't mean the good stuff. But go read the Motley Cow. There'll be links in the description down there, because the cow's growing, man. You got real people doing real followings and sending you real support, eh?
I know, it's nuts. Yeah, I'm over 200 now, so.
And it is absolutely worth it.
How many of those do you know?
Actually, fewer than happily, not all.
There you go. Well, you know what? I believe in nepotism. That's fine. But until next time, everybody, this is Keep Your Head On. I'm Andrew. That's Ty. That's Dr. Mark. And we'll see you again. And remember, keep your hat on, although I don't have a really good example of my boy here, because we may end up miles from here. We'll see you again, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Oh, that sounds great, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a little ASR.
The ASMR.
NBBN, the Narrowband Broadcast Network. The focus is on you.